You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Ross Kay from Ross Kay Realty Consultants. Welcome to the show, Ross.
Thanks, Jim. Nice to be back.
Well, real estate in Vancouver has become just one of the hottest topics ever. Everybody talking about foreign ownership, driving up housing prices. But the government kept insisting we have no way to keep stats on foreign buyers. First of all, Ross, is that a myth?
Well, it's a myth, but if you go back, if any of your listeners today go back to your recordings, previous interviews that you and I had together, you'll find that the solution CMHC brought up this week is a solution that was brought forward on your radio station a year ago. The FINTRAC forms, which my intelligence was used for articles in the Province magazine out there, or the newspaper out there. FINTRAC forms are required to be collected on anyone that would be classified as a foreign buyer. There is no way to divorce yourself from that obligation. So if they weren't completed, then the real estate agents have broken the law. They're subject to a $250,000 fine and a year in jail. So for the government to say that they do not have the tools at their disposal to find out an answer on this question, and I already know what the answer is, so the answer is not a complicated answer. It's just their lack of understanding of how the real estate market and the rules and the regulations that are in place have to be followed. That said, I think that when houses are exchanging hands in Point Grey in Vancouver and they're escalating in price by millions of dollars, that the only people foolish enough to do that would be foreign buyers. People who do not understand how the housing market functions here in Canada. So I think there is legitimacy to those crazy prices that are going on, that those assignment clauses, the flipping of properties, the transactions that the MLA recorded about people with a foreign last name. Those things are real, but those things have no bearing on the average Vancouver family that makes $60,000 to $80,000 a year, because they're not buying $3 and $4 million homes anyways.
Well, I just recently received a pamphlet from one of the real estate agencies here in Burnaby, and they said most of their sales in Burnaby were in the price range of $400,000 to $600,000, and above and below that, not a lot of action, and nothing sold over the price of $1.75 million. So in a suburb right next to Vancouver, these insane high prices are not happening.
No, and that's because you have to exclude those crazy parts of a market in the upper end. So what the realtors who put out this material that you're talking about don't understand themselves, because they've never received any training, they have no education, they could not go to the University of British Columbia and find this information out. The demographic group of homeowners in Burnaby right now is concentrated in the homes that today would be worth between $3 and $500,000. So of course there's more activity in that price point, because there's more buyers and sellers who are in that age group category that those houses are applicable to. I'm sure if you looked at the sales numbers that you're quoted, Jim, and in that document you're talking about, and if they gave you the numbers of sales that took place below $400,000, you're going to find that it's a substantially lower number than the number of sales that they said took place in the 4 to 6. So did they give you those two numbers, Jim?
Yes, they did, and those numbers were substantially lower.
Yeah, so you see, this is what's called the property ladder. The property ladder is gotten skewed over time, where people don't understand what it really means anymore. What the property ladder means is this. A first-time buyer who makes $68,000 a year cannot purchase a house in Canada, realistically speaking, for over $300,000. So in Toronto in the GTA or in Vancouver, the highest price point that a first-time buyer can pay, realistically speaking, would be $300,000. Those buyers purchase a $300,000 house from an existing homeowner. Now, that existing homeowner does not rent. He doesn't go buy a $4 million property in Point Grey. He takes the equity that's accumulated in his home, goes to the bank tells him how much mortgage they will approve him for with that down payment, the home equity he currently has, or she currently has, and then they go out and buy another house. So the $300,000 first-time buyer maximum, that is the maximum price. Those families, young families, have to be making about $70,000 a year to purchase that home today. The owners of the homes, those first-time buyers buy, then go out and buy another house themselves. Now, they usually move when they have about 50% equity in their house. So their house has gone up in value, they've paid down their mortgage, and they're sitting at a point where they have 50% equity, 50% mortgage. So on a $300,000 house, that means they have $150,000 of equity and they have $150,000 of mortgage. That $150,000 of equity allows them to purchase a $600,000 home because the bank will approve you with 25% down. As long as you qualify for the mortgage, you can purchase the house. So they take $150,000 of equity on a $600,000 purchase, and they have a $450,000 mortgage. Their combined income is going to be somewhere between $90,000 and $100,000, which, as a household income for someone in their mid to late 40s, that is a realistic income that StatsCan has proven to be true. So that's how the real estate market operates. So what people need to understand is that your whole real estate market is a house of cards. I'm going to use that terminology because it has the word house in it. But that house of cards is sitting on a group of first-time buyers. The decisions that those first-time buyers make is the decision that impacts the whole market. This nonsense about Chinese money coming into Point Grey, purchasing $5 million homes, consequently raising the prices in all of Vancouver and Fraser Valley now, is simple nonsense. It is absurd. It cannot be backed with statistical data because it's not the truth. Your real estate market is underpinned by first-time buyers. That's why when housing prices had started to drop in October, November, December, January, and last year, and then the Canadian government decided they're going to lower interest rates again. All of a sudden, first-time buyers could afford to spend a little bit more money on the house. That money is quickly absorbed by first-time buyers as they spend more, and then it's passed on up to the next sale, the next sale, the next sale, and the next sale. But it never ends at a $5 million purchase. And I think if you look at the stats they probably provided you from Burnaby, Jim, are there any sales that took place over $2 million in that chart?
The highest sale on the chart that I have is $1.75 million.
Okay. So, and how many sales took place over $1 million?
Well, I was going to say they have 4 homes listed at 1.75. None have sold.
None have sold.
8 homes listed at $1 million. None have sold.
So listings are irrelevant. I can put my house in the market today for $10 million. It doesn't matter what it's listed at. The only thing that matters is sales. So when you hear the Greater Vancouver Real Estate Board, the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, the Okanagan Mainland Real Estate Board, come out and use these numbers, sales to new listings ratio, or months of inventory, or sales to active listings numbers. None of those numbers matter. It's a fictitious number that organized real estate created way back in the 1980s to cover up the incompetency of the membership of the Canadian Real Estate Association. You have to remember, the average realtor in Canada last year only sold 3 houses. You can't sell just 3 houses and be competent. Now, you've got to remember that that's the average. So when you look, remember, there's some people that are selling 100 houses in a year or 200. Clearly, there are tens of thousands who don't even sell a property, but they carry their license. Those people are incompetent. They are not qualified to sell houses. They're the ones who deal with their cousins, their sisters, their brothers, their neighbors. They take them out and they give them bad advice. They give them no options. They cause all of the problems that are in the housing market right now. We have a program right now that we launched. It's called The Wealthy Homeowner. So thewealthyhomeowner.ca. Using rational, logical, prudent housing market intelligence, the average person buying a house in Canada today, 40 years out, so by 2056, so if you're 30 years old today, you purchase the average house. When you turn 70, using the Wealthy Homeowner program, you'll have $1.7 million available to fund your retirement. You will be able to live in the home that you've owned for 40 years. You can move if you want. It makes no difference over the course of those 40 years. But you will be able to stay in the home of your choice. You won't need to sell it to retire. You will have $80,000 annual income, tax-free, to retire on when you're 70. There is zero risk to anything with the program. There are no additional payments needed. All you do is you pay off your mortgage the same that you already are. But by using real estate intelligence, the truth, the way that all real estate markets function, by looking at how homeowners interact with their homes, we've created a program where all this wealth accumulation is possible. And this goes back to your first comment here about the Burnaby literature. When people are giving advice, and when homeowners are taking advice by people who don't know what the heck they're talking about, with people who can't sit down with you and pull out charts, pull out historical data, pull out today's data, break everything down for you so you can see it black and white in front of your eyes, you can't trust them. The average home in Canada last month, Jim, sold for $440,000. Those houses right now are on a price projection. In other words, the prices are trending 10% higher by the end of the year. In December 15th, the Canadian Real Estate Association, you can go to their website and see it, they released a simply outrageous comment that the average selling price in Canada was going to increase 1.9% this year. For that to be true, the entire housing market in Canada is going to have to collapse starting this March. And it's going to have to be the single largest collapse in the history of Canadian real estate. Because right now, prices are trending at 10.1% higher. Bad real estate intelligence would tell you to sell your house today because housing prices are only going to go up 1.9%. Good housing intelligence would tell you, hold on to your house, because you can make $40,000 if the market stays on its current path this year. And the beautiful thing about a housing market is there is zero risk in a housing market. Housing markets are not like the stock market. We can wake up one October day and find out that our stock portfolio has lost 30% overnight. That does not happen with real estate. There is always a 3 to 6 month window minimum that you have to make a decision that has no financial negative repercussions on you as a homeowner. So there is no reason that anybody should be going out today and rushing to make a decision. They shouldn't be listening to that information that was provided in your mailbox on Burnaby. They should be getting independent advice. They should be getting truthful advice that can be backed up statistically. Because the real estate market is not the stock market. Housing prices will not drop 4% next month. I say that because it has never happened in the history of organized real estate, even in the great house price correction of the 1990s.
We'll have more with Ross Kay right after the break.
Bird Dog, the ultimate tribute to the Everly Brothers and Simon and Garfunkel. Coming to Mission, White Rock, West Vancouver. Buy online and save at ontourtickets.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ross Kay. Ross, are real estate agents telling potential clients we're only expecting a tiny increase in the price of homes this year so that people will panic sell or panic buy?
Yes. Simple answer, yes. I also believe that the Canadian Real Estate Association released that simply outrageous 1.9% price increase across Canada this year on December the 15th, so that the Minister of Finance would not take action to curb the problems in the housing market. There is no other logical reason. Either the Canadian Real Estate Association is even more incompetent than I believe it to be, which is pretty bad, or they had an ulterior motive that was to make sure that the Minister of Finance didn't use any of the tools that he has at his disposal to fix the problems that are in the marketplace right now.
Ross, what are some of the tools he could have used?
Well, the very first tool is, so the Wealthy Homeowner Program, for over 4 decades, we've used a measure about how much home you can afford to own called the Home Ownership Debt Service Ratio. Now, what the Home Ownership Debt Service Ratio does, it takes your after-tax income and it compares it against every single nickel that it's going to cost you to own your home. So the Home Ownership Debt Service, HDS, it gives a home buyer or a homeowner, someone who's currently living in a house, of a true and a fair estimate of whether or not they can afford to continue to live in a home or how much for a home they can afford to buy. CMHC, the banks, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, everybody else uses 2 other measures. One called the gross debt service and the other called total debt service. Now, we're not going to worry about total debt service. We're just going to talk about gross debt service right now. The gross debt service uses your before-tax income, and they only take into effect what your mortgage payment is going to be, what your property taxes are, and a little $150 a month for heat. That's the only components of home ownership cost that are included in the GDS. Someone that has an outstanding credit score today can go to a Canadian bank, and that bank will lend them 42% of their pre-tax income to own a house. When they do that, In many cases, what it means is, in order to keep your house up to date, in order to pay your utilities, heat and hydro, in order to pay your house insurance, which you need to do these things simply to keep the mortgage they've agreed to lend you in place, because if you don't do that, that means your mortgage is no longer in force. You need to know how much of your house is going to depreciate in a given year, because a new roof's going to have to go on in 15 years. You're going to have to put in, you're going to have to redecorate the house, put in new carpets. You're going to have to re-side the house. You're going to own a house for 40 years. You're going to have a high number of costs to own that house. If you're spending 100% of your after-tax income simply to fund your mortgage, pay your property taxes and your utilities, or if you're spending 70% of your after-tax income to do that, you have no money left over to put a new roof on. You have no money to renovate that flooded bathroom. You have no money to put new carpets in your house, because any money you have left over is going towards paying for groceries, your car insurance, your cable, your internet. There is no money left over for these items. The bank has nothing to worry about, because when your mortgage comes up for renewal, the bank will smile and say, hey, we know that your house needs a new roof. We'll give you a line of credit because your house is now worth more money, or because you paid down principal over the last 5 years. The bank will say, don't worry about it. Your mortgage payment isn't going to go up. You know, right now your mortgage is you've owned your house now for 7 years. That means you only have 15 years remaining on your amortization. What we're going to do for you is, we, being the good guys that we are, we're going to stretch your amortization back out to 25 years. That's going to lower your mortgage payment enough so that you can increase the mortgage to put that new roof on your house. So this is what the tool, when you want to talk about what tools does the Minister of Finance have, his number one tool is to change the GDS ratio, the gross debt service. He has the power and he has the legal right to change what is the acceptable GDS ratio. The GDS ratio today should be somewhere around 26 to 27%. If he wants to stretch it, he could stretch it to, at the most, about 30%. When you're spending 30% of your pre-tax income on mortgage and property taxes and $150 a month on hydro, you still have the ability to make decisions that could allow you to cover all the other home ownership costs you have. So then why are they commonly lending money on 39% GDS? All the Minister of Finance has to do is say, we are going to lower the acceptable GDS ratio by 2% every 6 months over the next 5 years. Immediately, house prices begin to fall slowly in a controlled decline. The housing market is going to benefit from it because new home builders now are going to be able to sell properties more easily because the resale market is not going to take those sales away. More jobs will be created because the new home market creates more jobs than the resale market does. Homeowners will not become so indebted and bound to the banks, because what the banks have effectively done since these interest rates have dropped to these historical lows by lending money out at 39% GDS, the bank is prepared right now to take control of your life. As interest rates rise, which they are going to do, whether it's this year or next year, it doesn't matter. Your mortgage is going to come up for renewal in a 5-year window. The bank is waiting, licking their lips, knowing that interest rates are going to go up, knowing that when your mortgage renewal comes up, you're going to be in a really, really tough situation because you no longer qualify for the new payments that mortgage is going to be at. The bank is going to smile, and they're going to say, we're your heroes. Now, as long as you remain with our bank and you accept the interest rate that we're giving, in other words, the mortgage discounts that you see today when the banks have power evaporate overnight. All of a sudden, these 2% discounts you're seeing on 5-year mortgages drop to 0.5%. The banks reap all of those profits. The only way they can reap those profits is by putting the consumer in a position of weakness where the bank has the control. 39, 42% GDS for the best credit score consumers in the world, in Canada today. When interest rates increase, the bank's got you. The bank has full control. The bank is going to reap more profits from you. They're going to charge higher fees. They're no longer going to roll in the appraisal fee. They're going to start charging you $400 for it. The free mortgage renewal application no longer exists. $200. We want all of your banking accounts at our bank if we're going to make this mortgage agreement with you. All of your financial assets move to their bank. Oh, your credit card debt that you have, your credit cards must be with our bank. You need to get rid of those other credit cards. We'll issue you a new one. That's what happens when homeowners are not prepared. The Minister of Finance had the ability to alter the destiny of all Canadian homeowners simply by lowering the acceptable GDS ratio.
Ross, thanks a lot for chatting with us today.
Thanks a lot, Jim, for having me.
My guest has been Ross Kay from Ross Kay Realty Consultants. His website, rosskay.com, and also his consumer site is rosskay.ca. You're listening to HoweStreet.com Radio. Our popular YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Comments about the show can be sent to info@HoweStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HoweStreet.com Radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HoweStreet.com Radio is a production of HoweStreet Media Incorporated.